So he was the one who was always talking to our developers, and we were just as nicely demanding as possible. No matter what, this thing can never be slow. This thing has to be, people need to be able to swipe through this thing endlessly.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Soul Serum podcast. I am your riding around in the V12 with the racks in the middle host, Clay Bonine. I am joined by my It's Hot Outside, I Got a Fever Bitch co-host, Tanner Mavis. And we are back on the motherfucking show, episode 18, baby. Before I introduce our guests, I want to remind everybody, as always, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube, follow us on TikTok, join the Discord. I'm gonna keep saying it until every listener joins everything that we are about. And that's all I have to say. And let's move into the more important stuff here. Today in the studio, after we went to Canada for our last interview, we decided that we had to come back to our roots. And we got some local talent in the building here. In the studio, we have two producers and now turned app developers. I don't know if you can get nominated for creating an app, but one of them definitely got nominated for a Grammy with their music. And joining us in the studio today, we have Mondeaux and Corbett.
Yeah.
Welcome, gentlemen. Can we get some claps from the audience?
Thanks for bringing us in. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. How are you guys today?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. It's cold outside. It's kind of a bummer, but other than that, I'm doing good.
A little cold inside.
It is a little cold inside as well.
We can get through it.
You all brought jackets. You all are ready for this.
Right.
So as I stated in the intro, we have you guys are two local Northern Kentucky guys with us. Can we just get a little bit of background information on the both of you guys, and your relation to each other and whatnot? Mondeaux, we can start with you.
Yo. So, first off, Corbett is my brother-in-law. He's married to my sister. And
shout out T.
Corbett.
Yeah.
They
great lady, I'm sure.
When they got married, they moved back here, and then they got married. I was kind of starting to get into production a little bit, and I was kind of on and off about it. I used to think I wanted to be a EDM DJ and all this, and I was like, man, this is I don't know what I feel about it. And then I decided to go off to college, and I was like, I'm gonna be a chef. And then while I was there, I was skipping more school than anybody in their life has skipped just to stay home and make the wackest beats. I'm the wackest beats. And then I decided, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to NKU, and then I'm gonna button up and get some business stuff under my belt. And then while I was there, they were like, here's a statistics class. And I was like, no thanks. So again, and
it's crazy how across all boards, no matter who it is, where they go to college, what their major is, everybody's like, fuck stats. This is the worst shit ever.
Well, I mean, and it was one of those, I signed up late. So it was one of those 8 a.m. classes. And I was like, nobody's functioning right now. What are we doing?
No way.
So then again, I was like, shout out mom and dad. I was not telling them, and I was like, yeah, I got to go to class. And I would leave, wait till they left, and then I would just come back home and just make beats. I mean, I'm a grown man at this point. I was 19 or whatever, but so I didn't really have to hide.
You're a grown man.
Yeah, I'm a grown man. and then I just started I was like, all right, I'm gonna start making beats, and I want to get good at one thing. Either if it's making drums sound good, or making 808s hit or something.
Yeah.
And then I started trying to so when Corbett and my sister came back home, we would obviously talk about his involvement with music. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll maybe talk to him about it, see what I can get learn and stuff. And I was so first it was I kept it so closeted for some reason, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I thought my beats were so whack. And then I was like, all right, well, here's some beats. And he was like, yeah, I mean, they're all right, but you can try this and try this. And so I started getting some tips and stuff from him. And then I just decided, I was like, all right, I'm not going to go to college. That was a super fun conversation with my parents. And I'm going to just lock myself in a room and try to get as good as I can. And between working just garbage jobs here and there, I mean, shout out those jobs though. They paid me.
They were money.
They were definitely money.
Yeah.
I just kept getting better and better. And then it just got to a point where I sent a beat or something to some friends or to Corbett, and he was like, hey, this is good. And I was like, what the heck, you know? That's crazy.
So basically, what he's saying is, I made him everything he is. Shout out Corbett. I gave him the tools. And I gave him the vision.
Well,
nah, he was really quick. Like his progression was amazingly fast. So it's definitely not just some like brother-in-law. You know, let's build something together because we're family. Like I saw how hard he worked and how quick he was to grow. So I mean, that's good.
You recognize the work ethic over the sound a little bit there.
Yeah, actually, he taught himself guitar in like a really short span, and that was the first thing I remember. Like,
that's tough.
That takes some time.
Yeah,
you really got to sit there.
Some real mental fortitude to like teach yourself how to play guitar.
Nowadays there's so many other things you could do just right there, right next to you. So to see him actually stick to it, it was like, I think he's got the he's got what it takes to actually level up, like where he can join me and start doing some of these things I'm doing too.
That's so
Where
dope.
did the music production start for you then? Because I know that you're obviously older than Mondeaux, but so you may have had a different come up. Might have had a different come up than him. Where did it all start for you?
Okay, high school ends, and me and my 3.
Also, I don't know if we mentioned this. Florence, Kentucky is your all's stomping ground. For sure, correct? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Dixie Heights. I went to Dixie.
Okay, cool.
Who watches? That's actually from Northern Kentucky.
Shout out Dixie.
But so we graduate high school, and then me and my 3 idiot friends all move into an apartment together.
Nice.
Up to this one, I had no music experience whatsoever, but one of those friends had FL Studio on like a cracked version of like FL2.
That's always how it starts.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like that's the beginning of most people's stories as far as like in the hip hop realm. But we were in that apartment, you know, the typical like nothing on the walls, no like
there's like a table and like 2 chairs,
4 pieces of furniture, and then this computer that had FL, and I just started messing with it, and it was over from there. Like something about it just grabbed me.
Yeah. How old are you at this point?
18, like right out of high school.
Oh wow, so you've been in this for a while then.
For sure, that I was actually going to Wittenberg, which is a school up in Springfield, Ohio, to play D3 basketball. So college basketball, but like D3 basketball.
I played D3 at Thomas More for my freshman year. Yeah.
All right, we might have like scrimmaged your
maybe
preseason or something. But so I was kind of doing that, and then I left the apartment with the friends, and we went up there, and I just realized like this basketball is not. I don't think this is gonna pan out how I thought it would.
I felt the same way.
But at the same time, like I was like all into this program. Like every waking second, I just could not get enough of it. And so I started looking up schools for music production, and I found one in Minneapolis called the Institute for Production and Recording. Yeah. And this is in like 2007, I think. And it was like
I read an article earlier that said it was 06, but we'll give it, but we'll let you tell the story.
That's pretty close to being as far back as that was. But it's like back then it was either like Full Sail, which was like in Florida, or this place. I think there was one other place in Tennessee, like SAE or something like that. Yeah. And so I just said, let's go for it. Let's go on up there. So I broke the news to the parents, and actually they were really supportive of it, which like kind of surprised me, but I had their support to do it. So like that kind of definitely helped, you know, get there.
Yeah. Emotionally and mentally that helps a lot, I'm sure, to know that your parents are like,
especially so early, like in you doing that, man, like I'm sure that like definitely helped.
I was very surprised. Like I thought it was gonna be sort of like how he was talking, but honestly, you know, it wasn't. And so then going up there 2006 or 7, and then kind of learning curve went crazy because like you're at a school where everybody's doing everybody wants to be a producer and all that type of stuff. So
kind of pausing on that, for like producers today, I'm sure it's a lot different. So that's 15 years ago. Do you recommend producers going into school like or just like learning shit like straight off YouTube and going straight into it? Because I know it's a lot different. Like there's a lot of producers, like there's a lot of communities where you can learn a lot more online, but
he's the 2.0, so like I would say no, for real. Like you can learn everything that you want to learn. It's available to you, and I think that's what everybody thinks and says now. Yeah. Like I wouldn't have sent him to school. I would have been like, if you really want to learn it, it's there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I remember I was looking at some schools and I was like, I don't know. I think I want to try this. And he was like, for real, like I would take a year, maybe get on YouTube, just grind it out, see what you can learn, and then maybe we can spark this conversation up. And shout out YouTube, the University of YouTube.
Yes, sir.
I mean, anything you want to learn about, especially today, like it's just a straight cheat code and it's free.
But here is the other side of that. Now it wasn't as bad like 10 years ago, or like even probably 7 years ago. But now there's so much good information and there's so much trash information.
Yeah, very good.
No
Send you on the wrong path, like from a business perspective and from like a production tools. Like everybody just has a channel and they're just saying
whatever.
People don't know anything about what they're talking about, but they have a good camera and know how to cut together a good video.
Yeah.
And you know, think you're
And on that same side of the coin too is like now there's more producers than there's ever been. When you went to Minneapolis in 06, 07, like obviously there's a lot of people wanting to get into music production, but like the internet hadn't evolved into what it is now. So like there has to be 10 times as many producers now than there was whenever you first started.
Well, that's what we're hoping for with the Melody app, which we'll talk about later. We'll get to that later. But
Great transition.
So going back to your story, you're in Minneapolis, you're going to school. What comes after that? You go to school, like where did you get like your first placement? Who'd you start working with? Like how does it turn into like a career, I guess?
all right, so I don't know if anyone's gonna remember SoundClick. Anybody?
Yeah.
Remember?
Is that like wasn't that website where you could like download like loops and shit?
No. It was the first. It was, you know who BeatStars is now?
Yeah.
It's BeatStars from like that time.
Okay. Never mind.
And so I started seeing like all these people selling beats on SoundClick. So I'm like, all right, I guess that's the place to go if you're trying to make that happen or whatever. So I had made a profile on there and tried a bunch of terrible names, like different, I ended up with like 4 different profiles and finally landed on one.
Can you give us one of your old names?
All right, yeah, this is my favorite one. Boss Status Beats.
Boss Status Beats.
I loved it at the time, and then you look back like, yeah, man.
That one did.
Boss Status.
Overindulgent name.
I love it.
But then I ended up as Blacklight Music on there. And that, so I was down to like $0 in an apartment with some other people in the school. And then my 2 friends from home came and visited me and they left me. I was just telling them, I think I'm going to go get a job or something like that. And they left me $200 under my laundry basket.
Wow.
And from
good
that,
homies.
From that day, I made any dollar I've ever made has been from music, except for a short period a couple years ago where I was cutting down trees because things got a little tight. So I took that 200 and I put it into ads on the SoundClick thing, and sold a bunch of like leases and
that's awesome.
A couple exclusives, and like all of a sudden started having some money, kept putting it back in. And to your point, I could do that because there was probably only like, 1,000 guys on there even trying to do that. So I mean the pool was so shallow at that point. But that was what made it enable for me to keep focused in on the music for a long period. Like I made a good amount of money in those first 3 years. I think one year I made like almost $60,000 or $70,000 or something like that. Like it was a
not
gold
bad.
mine. It was
that
a gold
is not
mine.
bad.
But then I realized like you got to move. I was too reliant on that platform.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I need to maybe figure out how to. If this thing goes down, I'm done. Like I don't have any other standing anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your story right now. So obviously, as you said earlier, we're gonna get to the Melody app, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about some of the recent placements and production credits that you've got. In the Cincinnati Enquirer article, but actually, I'm sorry. Before we go on to the productions, I do have a question, kind of about your process, because in the Cincinnati Enquirer article about you, shout out Madeline Mitchell. She wrote a great article, by the way. She made this research really easy. But a lot of the references that were being made to like the music making was kind of general because, you know, she has to fit a general audience.
Right.
But I like to think that the listeners of our podcast have an above average kind of knowledge of music production. So can you tell us a little bit about like the role that you play in the studio? Hey, are you doing heavy lifting on the production of some of these tracks, or are you just like kind of making building block sounds, loops, things like that to then, you know, amplify the track?
Yeah, I mean all the bigger placements that you see now, I'm basically doing loops, and Hit Boy is taking them, flipping them, and, you know, creating the overall song. And then a lot of times he'll send me the song when it's done and say add this to this,
horns, bells,
post production to everything. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's like very light lifting, but it's definitely not the same as what he's doing day in and day out either.
Okay.
But like when I started, like you asked my first placement, it was Saigon. So he was a New York rapper. Like he at one point he was like the hottest mixtape rapper in the game.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with Saigon. Like that name is very familiar to me.
Yeah, and he's the first one that gave me a big look. Like he put me on songs with like Just Blaze, and he took
crazy.
my beats and he got me like credits for like Black Thought and all these like real like solid hip hop credits, you know. So he
respected
he looked it up.
figures.
And so to me, my mindset was like, be the producer, be the you know, Alchemist, or all the people who I looked up to at that time.
Yeah.
And so that actually kind of stunted me because I wasn't into collabing with anyone. I thought I had to do everything in order to kind of bring value to the table.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to realize if you bring everything, there's not enough room for anyone else at the table.
True.
And so
would you say that's like the case for like a lot of larger music nowadays? Like there's not anymore just one producer and one rapper locked in the studio. It's usually a little bit of, you know, a collaborative kind of process.
I would say so. I mean, you just don't ever see on credits less than like 4 people usually.
Right.
Unless it's like really high up pop people. Sometimes they'll go for like a Taylor Swift or something.
Yeah.
Something it's like, I just want to be with this producer and I'll write everything. But it's pretty rare.
She's allowed to do that because she's like one of the top, you know, grossing artists of all time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, right. It's rare. It's at the top. And she wants to write it all. She doesn't really like want to take writing from other people and
Right,
stuff. So.
right. One other thing from that article that I kind of got out of it was like there's this overarching theme where like you and Sonny, the engineer, that's his name, right?
Sun Tzu, yep. Sun Tzu, shout out.
Sun Tzu.
It sounded like you all were making these quotes where like you know, you all don't claim to be these classically trained, highly sophisticated, like tuned ears, but you all know what sounds good and how to make it. How much of that is musical ability and how much of that is like some intangible feel of sound? Like, because I know artists, producers, everybody, there's a common theme across all genres of music where people are like, I don't know, it just like came out of thin air and I could do it. Is that something that you experience when you're producing, or do you think that it's a lot of like what you've learned over the years?
I think it's like studying. Like you probably could say that too. Like just listening so much to music that you love, it just becomes like subconsciously in your taste palette, or whatever. And then you get a chance to experiment and try to recreate those sounds. My first beat that I knew I could make beats was I copied Through the Wire from Kanye West.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Completely remade it, and then that like unlocked the door to you can sample. I know how to sample now. I can just take my own sample and put my own drums on it, and I made a beat that was like that. You know what I mean?
Damn, that's really interesting.
Yeah, for real. And I think the same, like, I'll piggyback off that, like listening to music you like, but also like I think that there's just like, especially days when I don't feel like super creative, like my goal is to like take sounds and just ruin them, like just trash them as much as I can. Like, have you ever seen Song Exploder on Netflix? With the one with Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails?
I have not seen that one. But
first off, shout out Trent Reznor.
That dude's a genius.
It is wild.
I didn't know as much about him, and then I watched that, and I had a whole different respect for him.
Well, he's like good buddies with, do you know Steve Duda? He's the guy who made Serum. It's like a plugin that a lot of people use.
Didn't he make the sausage fattener?
Yeah. You win some, you lose some.
Nice.
So they had
Producer jokes. You gotta love them.
so he like, I was listening to him one day, and Steve Duda was talking about how he was in a studio with Trent Reznor, and he said there was no creativity happening, and he just handed me like this like Moog modulator and was like, see how you can take this apart and ruin this for me, because I want to make some crazy sounds. And I was like, you know what? I've never thought to like sit down and like take, even if it's like a hi-hat or a kick drum, and just make it the worst I could sound and then resample it 1,000 times to make it sound cool. So like there's been enough of those days under my belt that I go like, even if I don't know the musical direction I want to go, like, I mean, just a crazy experimental day can turn into something wild, you know?
Yeah.
And too, before we move on from that, the tools have made it possible for people like us to get involved so quick. Before you kind of, if you were in the studio in like the 70s, you needed somebody that knew theory and knew how to play to get the song going. Now you like really don't need that, and it's an extra if you have somebody on hand that can go crazy with the music. But
and pieces of equipment that used to be this big are now
all in that thing.
all right here. That's the one of the coolest things about like the modernization of like music production to me, is that like people have plugins of literal machines from the 70s that would take up, the entire half of the room, and it's just like it's on FL Studio or whatever. That's crazy to me. Will you talk to us a little bit about the connection with Hit Boy as well? Just because a lot of the credits that you have, Hit Boy is also on there. So talk to us about how you met him and what it's like working with somebody who has made like legitimate classics.
Yeah, producer of the year this year too.
That's
crazy.
By a lot of different.
I was like, I obviously knew all these Hit Boy songs like in my head just from like loving this genre, and then as I'm doing research for this, I just was like, oh, well, let's see Hit Boy's credits, and I'm just like, oh my god, he has made everything for everybody too.
Just active since he was like 19, I think. And just never really stopped running, but the story with Hit Boy is like, shout out Sun Tzu. It's such a great story, but I don't want to be long winded about it, because sometimes that's like, it can be a lot. But so Sonny he's the best engineer from this area. Like he was known as that. And so Adrian Bronner, the boxer, he's from here as well. He likes to rap and he has like a label, and so Sonny was working with him doing his engineering. Sonny went on tour. AB went on tour in 2013, I believe. It was a Lil Wayne tour.
Nice.
So probably one of the bigger tours of the year. And also on the undercard of that tour was Hit Boy and his crew, which was HS87 Surf Club. So you've got Hit Boy on a bus over here, and Sonny and AB and all the Cincinnati guys back here. And they struck up a relationship in that time, and they started working together. And then eventually Sonny flew out to LA to work with him. So he really created that bond with Hit Boy.
Shout out Sonny.
Yeah, I mean, he went out there. A lot of people aren't willing to do that, especially from here, because sometimes we feel like we'll get swallowed up, or we wouldn't know what we would do in a big city. But,
100%.
But he was willing to go out there and take the ride. So he came back, and I was working with artist Trademark Aaron.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Who I did an EP with him in 2014. He went and recorded some stuff with Sonny. He played him some stuff we were working on, and Sonny was like, "Oh, who is this? This doesn't sound like what I'm hearing from here." And then he connected us, and then another couple years go by. Yeah. And if he's here, he would tell you like we just did all the wrong things. Like we didn't even work on music for a year at least after we met. We talked literally every time we would get in. This was probably 5 or 6 times. Like we would just start talking about religion. We would start talking about politics, race, family, like all this stuff.
All the fun stuff.
All the stuff that everyone says don't do, but it was being able to have those conversations, and then he still kept wanting to come over, and I still kept wanting him to come, and I would be over at his studio to make it through that and still want to be around each other. It was like, okay, that's the foundation to really be able to make some vulnerable, great music together. And
that's facts.
That's what set the tone for, I think, the trajectory. And then so in 2016, late 2016. We were at my house and just talking about how things were slow, like for me and him both. Like we had some placements, but it just wasn't really moving. And I was like, so what do you think? Like, what if we see if we can go bring some value to Hit Boy's table? Like, I don't know what he's got going, but if you've got the connection, like maybe we just go see how we can help.
Yeah,
see if
totally.
if there's a place for us. And, you know, still at this time, I didn't know if he actually knew Hit Boy or not. Like, that's a pretty big claim.
Yeah,
true.
For somebody, especially from a smaller.
Could he have just like dapped him up one time, maybe, and then he's like, "I know Hit Boy," yeah,
or like, you know, not know him at all. I don't know, but so, you know, I took his word and we flew out there and he for sure knew him. Like when we landed, we got the FaceTime, we pull up at this house in the hills, like everything you imagine, like when you're gonna go work with the top producer and everything you think. We get in there and there's like in his studio in his house, it had like 15 people in there, all writers. Everybody was writing for this artist Justine Skye, and so I'm just in there like I don't know what to do, like I'm over my head or whatever. But I just kind of played the back, watched everything, soaked up game.
Nice.
And that trip was like a 10-day trip where we did a bunch of like I didn't really get to work on anything. I just like I helped build a studio like in his guest house and went and ran and like got some things for him. Yeah. But I guess I made enough of that's impression that I wasn't like ruining anything that I got to keep coming back.
Yeah. At the bare minimum, you didn't fuck anything up.
Sometimes that's all you got to do. Like stay in the door.
Absolutely. So last question before we transition to the Melody app, and I'll credit Tanner for this question, but I'm gonna ask it. A lot of musicians produce. Tanner low-key is my ghostwriter. A lot of like artists, producers, creatives in general in this area, you know, have this mindset a lot of the times that they have to leave Cincinnati or have to leave Northern Kentucky to make it in the music industry. And while you obviously just told us a story about you leaving to go out and make those connections, you are still based out of Northern Kentucky. You have a studio here. So you've proven that you can make it happen in this area. What are some of the benefits of like staying close to home and working in music, and how did you even get yourself to this point to be able to be in your stomping grounds while still grabbing Grammy nominations?
Well, I think like first of all, you do have to go. I would say you kind of have to like the face card is more valuable than even having like the best beats or the best loops or whatever. Yeah. Being able to people, when you send them an email, they know what you look like. They know how you are, how you talk, how you relate to them. The conversion rate is just going to be way higher. So I probably wouldn't have said that before this experience in my life. I would have believed, you know, like you just have to keep being consistent and sending things. And I'm sure that's worked for a lot of people. But in my experience, relationships have been the ultimate key to everything. Even if you go back to Sonny, it's like we knew each other, so he was willing to take me with him into his other relationships and stuff like that. So, but the value of being able to go out there and work for a couple weeks and then come home is, number one, for me, I don't like LA all that much. Like it's just a lot, and it's just it wears me down.
Shout out LA.
Here. I love LA, but being there for someone like me is like, it's a lot. Like I'm used to a slower pace, so it can definitely wear me down. But you go out there and make the money that's available in the music industry there, and you bring it here. It's almost like you doubled your money. Yeah. In a sense, like everything costs less. You're not feeling like you need to spend. You get out there and you start seeing what's out there. You might want to start spending a little bit more. So that's kind of a bonus. Yeah. And you get a chance to just focus and zone in on what you want to do. Because when you're out there, you're always trying to get in a session or find who's doing this, who's doing that. Let's go over here. And I think you could probably get lost in that creatively and just doing whatever that person wants you to do. Versus like when you come back here, you have a chance to be like, okay, that was crazy. That was a crazy week. Let me process that week and now let me go back in and see how can I make more value for the next time I go out.
That's
there.
amazing.
That's great.
I think the same way, man. Like I think so to summarize what you said, like traveling and showing your face and getting around the talent, getting around the people that are in the industry is key. Extremely key. You got to do it. But being able to come back home and reflect and narrow your focus from what you just learned, everything is like, I think that's like very like, you know, key and like vital for like the future of creatives like around this area. And hopefully we can build this thing to where like, you know, we have all kinds of resources and artists and producers and creatives that are here, you know?
Oh yeah. Like we will. That's what we were talking about before. But it also keeps you from getting watered down. Like if you stay there, if you stay in big cities long enough, it's just human nature. You will start to become more like the experiences of that city. So when you get to come back to the Midwest or whatever, and then you go back out, you're a breath of fresh air for the people you work with because there's something different that you bring to the table.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. And another thing is I get to take his packs out. And he's starting to get he's got some major placements coming down the pipe.
Hey, shout out Corbett. We'd love to hear that.
I'd love to speak on, but we don't want to jinx it, but there's some monsters coming.
Should we go do this emoji right here?
And then to build on that, like what we were talking about before we jumped online is like we both have we all have the vision to try to bring some of that energy, the industry energy, into our city.
Yes.
And then that way we could put the spotlight on what we've all been doing, and it's cool to hear that other people have that same aligned vision.
Yes.
Did anyone think Toronto was going to be a hub of pop music and hip hop music?
Hell no.
10 years ago?
Hell no.
Absolutely not.
What happened? Something crazy happened out of the city.
Yeah.
And now it's like you can't turn around without hearing that Canadian accent on a podcast or like people in the studio.
It seems like every month or every other month I'm hearing of a new Toronto artist that's coming out and just making noise, man. It's sick.
The last interview we did on this show was with an artist from
we
Toronto.
shot video with
as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
so
artists from Toronto flew out to shoot with us.
Yeah.
Shout out Elko. Toronto.
Shout
so
out
even
Elko.
that, like, so Toronto is so big, it's bringing money and commerce into Cincinnati.
There you go.
That's where I want Cincinnati to get. Like,
That's crazy.
What's happening in Cincinnati where all these artists are just going like to this level, or all these producers?
Yeah.
Let's hope for it one day.
Yeah, I think we have the ingredients to do it.
Yeah,
100%.
It's just about like not giving up on that idea.
Yep. Yeah. And bringing it all together and collaborating.
Because I think the reason it hasn't happened before was like as soon as somebody got heat around here, they go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Or Nashville, maybe. I don't know anyone that went to Nashville, but
LA
maybe. But Atlanta like swallows up everything from Cincinnati. Everybody just goes down there.
So all you got to do is drive south. You know, it's an easy trip to make,
and it's a whole different world,
bro.
We were just in Atlanta last weekend.
Atlanta is the free world,
free
especially
world.
right now during COVID.
Yeah.
There is no COVID down there.
No, it doesn't exist.
It never made it to Atlanta. You know, one of the things that I think could help Cincinnati bubble up is the Melody app. You like that? You like that transition? That was good, right?
I think mine was better, but it came too early. So yeah, I feel it. Could you all, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, either of you all, give me your 60-second pitch on the Melody app. What is it, and why do music makers need it?
Time's on. All right, so especially today in modern,
make it 30 seconds.
Okay. So in hip hop music, everybody's turning out, music every other day, it seems like, and so producers got to be quicker and quicker. And so, like Corbett said, like you don't really, with all the tools we have, you don't need to know music theory as much as you used to and stuff like that. So a lot of people, the culture is starting to shift more towards like loops and melodies are cool. Like it used to be kind of hated on, and people were like, "No, that's not original."
Totally.
Now it's like everyone's like, yeah, here's a melody pack, here's a melody pack, here's a melody pack. And like, I mean, that's what I feel like most of those like internet money songs that went crazy is because people were sending melodies left and right.
Yep, totally.
So the Melody app essentially is that for you. So there's a lot of services that provide like Splice and like freesounds.org and all this stuff that can give you like little 8-bar loops. But the good and bad thing about that is it's an ocean of sounds. So like you have everything from EDM to hip hop to reggae to whatever. And the process used to be, all right, I know I'm gonna have to carve out 2 hours of my day to go through and like look at every sound and hear everything and make sure and use what my like, you know, $8 a month worth of credits to like get like satisfied by that. So what this app does,
I think you lost him.
I know.
Bring it home.
This app just essentially cuts out all the middleman. So you open this app, you can swipe left if you don't like it, swipe right if you do like it, kind of like Tinder.
Yeah.
And if you need the melody right away, you can swipe up, email it to yourself. So now you're cutting out 3 or 4 steps. So you sent an email to yourself, it has a melody, you plug it into your DAW and you're working. So
Yeah.
literally 2 minutes and you're going. And in a studio, like especially when you're trying to catch a vibe with somebody, like it seems like, especially what Corbett said, like a lot of the times what happens is like producers just going through melodies and artists go, okay, I like that, and then they build the beat around that.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is just like straight up a cheat code because you have it, you can go. It's like tapping into that like swipe culture that everybody's used to.
Yeah.
And you're working
So-
in 2 minutes.
I gotta imagine that I was gonna ask where this idea came from, but like this is just something that I'm sure you all as 2 producers probably have wanted for like years at
Right.
this point, right? Like how can we streamline and make the most efficient way to choose beats? Is that kind of the origin of this?
So the pain point that this came from for me, and then I talked to a bunch of other producers and they agree, is Splice is an amazing tool. Probably the best, like it's like Splice and Arcade. But for me, whenever I wanted new sounds, I just knew that was going to eat up like 2 to 4 hours of my day
Yeah.
to like stock up on new loops and drums and all that stuff. And then by the end of
And
that,
like-
a lot of times I just felt like I don't even really want to do anything today. I'll just do something tomorrow or whatever. So I'm just thinking like, how can we just completely erase that, at least from the melody side?
Yeah.
And so we all got to talking about it, and I'm just thinking like, why are we going to a website in this day and age?
Yeah.
Why don't we just have a button on our phone that just says, I want to hear loops right now?
Yeah. Totally.
And I looked around and I didn't see it anywhere. And I know Splice does have an app, but I think their app is just like still lists of things.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's a
Whatever.
player, you can't send anything.
Yeah.
So it just started from that, like, I want to be able to listen to a loop right now.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Plain and simple. That's a really good
crazy.
log line. I want to listen to a beat right now.
And as far as you guys know, you guys aren't like in competition with anybody. Like as far as like an app.
Yeah, I was trying to find.
That's
I was
crazy.
trying to find something
That's
else.
crazy.
That's really it.
Yeah, it was super crazy, especially when he told me about it. I was like, there's got to be some, and you look, and I mean, there really is nothing besides Splice. But like I said, they're just a
Yeah.
player.
But
They don't.
because they're serving the community well. Splice, this is not a competition to Splice. This is
No.
an add-on. This is like if you have Splice, you have this too, because this is just going to cut down your time on like finding loops and all that.
Totally.
stuff.
If you are successful, I could see Splice going into like an app form.
Yeah, for real.
So I downloaded the app obviously in preparation for this, and like just like I'm not a producer, by the way. Just
need to be.
Yeah.
well, during quarantine, I had a short stint of producing. I got some files on here.
2021
Anyway,
producer. It sounds like he's got a pack. Let's go.
This has all been a ploy for me to play you my
listening
beat pack.
list.
That's what this is. No, so I downloaded the app, and off the first rip, it is insanely user friendly. Like 3 or 4 clicks, and I was like in and listening to melodies or loops. Is that something that you all thought about when you started developing the app, or did you all have the idea and then kind of build what it looked like and how it operated afterwards?
Speed was everything.
Okay. That was a point in your mind at every step of the way, efficiency and speed.
Yeah, I mean, we hammered our developers, like Jordan, he's actually the tech side of this thing.
Shout out, Jordan.
Is a genius, and he's really the one. Like we kind of brought this. We built the idea together, but it's just an idea. You need someone like him who's really going to be able to understand how to make the next step. So he was the one who was always talking to our developers, and we were just as nicely demanding as possible. No matter what, this thing can never be slow.
Yeah.
Like, this thing has to be. People need to be able to swipe through this thing endlessly fast.
I mean, it's really great. I mean, so it's the first screen is like instruments, right? So like I went in and I picked I think I did like synth and maybe bells and something else. And then the next one is like, what style do you want? And I'm like, hard, upbeat, happy, and like boom, it's like right there. And just like I'm just like scrolling through whoever Strange is on that app. Apparently he makes beats that I like, because like everyone that I was like, oh, who made this one? I'm like, oh, okay, Strange again. Swipe right, I'm like, oh, okay, Strange again.
That's so cool.
Shout out Strange. He was on the Judas and the Black Messiah soundtrack.
Oh yeah, I saw you just posted about that, bro.
He produced the loop with me on that. So
I can't wait to see that movie. Side note,
amazing.
I'm assuming you already saw the movie, probably.
No,
if you,
I was close to it, but the guy who had the movie, his name's Dash. He was the person that executive produced the soundtrack with. It was him, Hit Boy, and then the two directors of the movie. He like left his drive in his house or something like that.
That's crazy, man.
I still like super excited.
There's so many like cool names on that track list, and then Rakim is like the last one, the bonus track. Like
that's crazy as fuck.
That's gonna be crazy.
Wait till you hear the A$AP Rocky song.
For real.
Wait till you hear the Smino song is crazy. Like the Sir song is crazy. And the they did drop a preview of the Jay-Z Nip song, but that song's great. Like
damn,
Hit Boy's got a crazy song on there. Like you said, so many people.
Yeah, I saw Pooh Shiesty got a
my artist
too.
My artist
damn,
Pooh Shiesty.
You see all these like crazy legendary names, and you see they threw Pooh Shiesty and like Polo G in there. I was like, yes,
that's so fire.
That's legendary. But yeah, shout out to Strange.
Yeah. So on the app as well. So can you all like name some of the producers that are included who have their loops on that app? And then also additionally, can anybody submit to the Melody app, or is it kind of like a pool that you all have right now of people?
Yeah, so as far as submitting, we definitely have, I think right now our process is if you go to the website, there's a, I want to be a part of the team kind of a tab, and you can send in an email with a couple loop, and we'll go through it. That's probably going to be like something that we have to like figure out, because right now it's just the three of us listen to it for like, it's a vibe. So, but the producers are, I have some stuff on there. Corbett has some stuff on there. There's Josh Strange. There's this 17-year-old Isaac Klenda. He is like, I mean, you want to talk about somebody who learns quickly? That kid is. There's Chris Medine, also beast. Like he like
he's on like Flex, the Polo G song, and a couple other songs that
nice.
Got you.
We have this guy out in Italy. His name is Keeler Kendricks, and he just
Melody app International.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's bringing that Q Beats vibes
for sure. And then there's a guy named Dizzy Wolf. I don't really know. I don't think
he's
I know.
from Lexington.
I think
really?
Tyler. Yeah.
I think I also matched with an internet boy as well.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. He brings that just like whole obscure like bedroom pop vibe. That's like
definitely
really just sets everything apart.
Yeah. But you all are accepting beats. Like anybody, if they wanted to, can like submit.
They can submit, right? But right now we're limited. We're not just taking on anything. We're trying to kind of one of the biggest differences between us and Splice is like we can vet everything that comes into our app.
Yeah,
because it's small. And Splice does a really good job, but they have so much content that they can't vet every single thing.
Totally.
And we've all seen like stories where people get sued because they didn't know that the loop they used from Splice was actually from this other guy's pack that wasn't royalty free.
Okay. Yep.
But Splice couldn't vet it all. Now that's somewhat of a rare case, but you still are exposing producers to that kind of like potential thing happening.
Yeah.
And so the another big difference with us is when you're a producer and you use a loop from our app, you actually are agreeing to credit and split royalties with the loop creators, which is a kind of like, okay, it's sort of counterintuitive to the culture we've built around loops and melody packs and all that type of stuff. We're trying to sort of change the conversation to say, instead of going royalty free, why don't we cut a small royalty to these guys? That actually protects you from any of these people ever coming back on you and saying, hey, like, I actually don't agree to royalty free. I want a percentage now. And even if they're totally wrong and they're just complete, you still have to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So either you are paying for a lawyer or the label you sold that beat to is paying for a lawyer, and now they hate you.
Yeah.
Because they had to do that.
So is that something too that you were thinking about in making the app? Is like, how can we protect the producer and protect the artist as well?
100%. Like, and that comes from working with Carl Folks, who's like the
Shout out Carl Folks.
Shout out
he's
Carl.
the guy. Like he kind of understands all these things that are happening behind the scenes that some other people don't know. The challenges that producers are going through.
Yeah.
Because sometimes innovation happens before the legal side can catch up to it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the 5-year shift of loops are whack to like loops are everything happened, and it's this wild west of.
Yeah.
I've heard A&Rs be like, "Oh, where'd you get the loop?" And then the producers, "I got it from Looperman. We can't use anything off Looperman because we can't vet what's happening." Now that's not every label, but that was that situation.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got my wheels turning of like, well, what if there was a place to get loops where everybody knew it was fine? Like, so we'll even take this app and we're going to go meet with A&Rs and let them know, like, hey, if your producer says they got their loop or their melody from the Melody app, you know it's going to be
clean. It's all good.
That's
If you can get all the labels behind, the Melody app is safe.
Safe for everybody.
Like that is huge.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a selling point because, like we said, like trying to expedite things and make things and push music out as quickly as possible. I mean, now the label or anybody else you're working with doesn't have to think about it because they're like, okay, the paperwork's squared away. We don't have to,
Yeah.
I've seen many placements lost because they couldn't figure out where they got the loop from.
Yeah.
They couldn't get in
That's
contact
sad,
with
man.
the person.
Sucks.
Wouldn't that suck?
That's
Like,
terrible.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like your first big one. Like
Right.
you've been
Young up and
working
coming
hard.
producer, like getting a placement.
I have
and
so
then,
many producer friends, that are like right on the brink. Like they're working with bigger artists, and like they're almost there. And it's just like if that would be stripped away from them from that, like
About
I
to get
know
out my
how bad
mom's
that would
house.
hurt. Yeah,
They
I know how bad that would hurt.
So like another way to help that person is like when you download the loops from Melody app, an email is sent to you with not only a link to the loop right there, but also all the information from each person's that you're collaborating with on that loop.
That's
So
amazing.
All you got to do when the A&R says, "Hey, where'd you get this from?" Go back to your email. Here's Josh Strange's SCAP or BMI information.
Damn.
It's all right there. It's super
That's
simple.
amazing.
For you know what I mean? Like
That's amazing. I think one thing that has been great for me, somebody who like has always been into music, but until the last couple of years, I didn't really, pull back the curtain and look deeper, is like these last few years, I've understood how producers are very often just like walked over and trampled on. And then there's all these little technicalities of copyrights and loops and whatnot, like that really hurt the producer, So I think it's fantastic that you all, obviously as producers yourselves, are trying to protect your fellow artists, in doing this app.
Well, so to speak on that a little more, you're right. Producers have definitely been kept in the dark on like the business side a lot. So now with this whole loop thing, we've turned around as the producers and even done the loop people worse. Like we just made it like you got to give your loops away for free. Like royalty free everything, and like hopefully you can make $10,000 on Looperman or on Splice or whatever. Where I feel like there's a better system for everyone, and we're figuring it out, and I think we're getting closer to it with this. And I know that as we go and as we see how this actually reacts into the market, we may have some adjustments to make, but we're willing to be wrong here or there to figure out like what it's going to take.
I think overall you guys have the idea, man. Like, in the future, I really think that this is something that producers are going to use, and A&Rs and these labels are really going to get behind. Like, now that I've heard you guys explain it, I see the vision. I can see how beneficial it can be for these up and coming producers. And I hope all the producers that are watching, y'all go download the fucking app and go use it.
Melody app. For real.
In the App Store.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And
this is a homegrown app. Like this is Kentucky, bro. Like, we are here.
Use the melodies off the app, post the beats, tag the Melody app. We love seeing that stuff, man.
This is I know we're getting close to our time here because I know you have to take a call. So I just want to ask one last question and then we're good.
For sure.
We've danced around the answer a little bit, but I would like to hear something clear and concise here. Like, what is the ultimate goal for this app? In an ideal situation, perfect world, everything works out how you want it to. What is your all's goal with the Melody app?
The vision I have for it is like when you're in the studio with somebody and someone's like, "Where'd you get that loop?" Like, "Oh, the Melody app." You know what I mean? From a user standpoint, but there's the second and third tier goals are to bring more transparency to the loop maker producer label relationship.
Well, like you said, it was like the Wild West, and like this could be like the first stake into kind of like really setting up some sort of like a organization on like, okay, this is putting out all the details in front of you. There is no like shady business, royalty free, this, that, and the other. It's like it looks good to the A&Rs. It's user friendly. It like, you know, it can get a creative session going like in a second. So I think it's really kind of locking down like this wildness that is like the Melody game right now, and like really kind of putting it forward.
It changed Melodies, I think probably even on the pop side, 80% of the songs you hear on the radio or anywhere, it's like probably started from a loop at some point.
Yeah.
Which seems crazy from where it came. We were like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So just bringing some more order to it and shining light on that probably.
Yeah.
Can't hate on user friendliness and good business, you know.
Well, I think
at the end of the day.
Well, I honestly think our challenge is going to be educating the landscape right now. Is royalty free, like that's it. And I think that educating and saying, hey, royalty free, okay, here are the exposures that you're leaving in the equation. So if you go over here where it's not royalty free, here's what you escape. You do lose 10%. That's the split. Like we say, the basic terms are, if you use a loop from the Melody app, you're giving the loop creator 10% and a writing credit. So whatever advance you get, you keep. You don't have to split down on that. And no points, which that's just basically points are royalties on the master.
I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Right. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I'll come back and explain all that too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that either of you all want to get into that we haven't talked about yourselves, about the app or anything before we get out of here today?
We are gonna to launch the app March 3rd. We're holding a $10,000 beat contest. So every producer,
I'm gonna bring my MIDI back out, bro. I might,
you made your pack already. Yeah. But so it's simply like you just download the app, make a beat with one of the loops in the app, and then send it to the email that we'll start announcing it and giving all the details.
Damn.
But
nice.
That's gonna be dope.
That would be really sick.
And then in the future, like we're gonna have crazy stuff like we're setting up producer camps and writing camps that are all going to be melodies from the Melody apps, and have like big producers, and then invite people who use the app to come out and see, like, can you hang with the top producers and stuff. Get a bunch of content from that, but that'll be super fun.
I love
awesome.
that. Keep us in the loop of all that. I would love Soul Serum to somehow get involved and maybe shoot some content at these
100%.
camps and whatnot.
Yeah, we need everybody, especially I'm loving the momentum from here too.
Yeah.
Like bringing everything, all the talent we have here, and just including it in the momentum we got with everything. So
100%.
And if anybody, if there was questions that you had that you didn't feel got answered, feel free to hit me on Instagram and ask, and I always like try to respond to everybody. And
go ahead and drop your all's ats.
Yeah, that's your camera right there.
Yeah.
You can look right in there.
So it's at Mondeaux, MONDEAUX _ on like everything, Twitter, Instagram, but Instagram would be the best way to hit it up. And then at the Melody app on Instagram, Twitter, and that's where like our guy Jordan usually answers a lot of the DMs from there.
And mine's just at Corbett Music. So
perfect.
Yeah, feel free, because I know sometimes like when I'm watching interviews and podcasts, like I wish they would have went this route or that route or whatever. So feel free, I'll answer whatever questions. I'm not trying to hide any information.
No. Well, with that being said, I want to remind everybody, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the page on YouTube, TikTok, Discord. Every link is in the description. I want to thank Corbett and Mondeaux for coming on today. We had a great conversation here.
Appreciate it.
And as always, I am your host, Clay Bonine.
Co-host Tanner Mavis.
Corbett.
Corbett Music.
Melody
Mondeaux. Melody app. Yeah.
Melody. Everything's gonna be on the screen. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see y'all next week.
All right.
Yep.
Deuces, y'all.
Appreciate it.